Yaffee program on WVNN.
Well, it appears that President Donald Trump is kind of on my side when it comes to the whole issue of data centers. Supposed to be very afraid of data centers. Look, when the whole conversation started, I wasn't sure what to believe. And, I'm still open to a different argument, mostly because I just want to go to one. Somebody take me to one. Let me do a tour, and I can judge this for myself. But just from a gut feeling and from the fact that I've been doing this for a while, looking at different issues in the news, I could tell that this was not really about our true concern over data centers, but this was coming from another place. I've been calling it a moral panic. And that's what it seems to be. It's just this moral panic. And it's interesting because you had Tuberville recently come out on this, and now Trump has, so maybe they knew something. They probably saw the trends that states are trying to ban it, but now New York wants to ban them. We're going to talk about this. It's an important issue, and I'm curious what you think. I know I've asked you before, but weigh in on the text line. Do you agree with me? You tend to think this is a moral panic and data centers in certain areas is fine. Do you agree with maybe New York? There should be a moratorium. There should be a ban. Or maybe you're somewhere in between. Dale was talking with Mo Brooks, former congressman, in the last hour. And he was basically like, look, it's a case-by-case basis. That's probably the most logical answer when it comes to building a new data center. But we'll definitely talk about it. I'll give you the latest and some of the info on how it could affect your community if there was a data center around. But we'll talk about that in a moment. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Also coming up on the show, we'll get to those Alabama bullet points, the top stories from around the state. At the bottom of the hour, we're going to speak with State Representative Rex Reynolds, and he's a former law enforcement officer. We have to talk about police recruiting in Alabama, some bills that he got passed, and some new initiatives on that. We'll talk about that and some other stuff as well. We'll have to talk about, let's see, what's coming up in the next hour. We have Christopher Reed, host of The Daily Controversy. He's going to join us. And J.D. Vance, Vice President J.D. Vance, did an interview with Joe Rogan. I haven't been able to listen to the whole thing. I've seen some different clips out there. But he said something about young people and socialism, which I find interesting. I think he's on to something partly. It's not the whole picture, but we'll talk about that. I always end the show with the Yaffee program Rewind, and we always take your text messages. Like I said, 866-494-9866. We're going to do What's Trending later on. Walker's here producing once again today. Walker, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm a bit disappointed because my allergies have come back, and I thought that
you thought it was over for the season?
Yeah, I thought the season was over.
No, not in Huntsville. There is no over.
I just
allergy season.
Woke up with so much sinus pressure.
Ugh. Do you know what you're allergic to? Have you ever been tested?
I've never been tested. I just assume it's some sort of pollen.
Yeah. Pollen's pretty bad. Other stuff as well. I'm allergic to cats.
And gerbils.
Apparently. Yeah, gerbils. Yeah, exactly. We talked about that. so, oh, man. Yeah, I kind of felt it a little bit, too, today, which, it is disappointing.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. So let's get to this conversation on data centers. And seriously, I want to know what you think. Do you agree with me it's a moral panic? Do you agree with those who want to ban it? Or maybe you're somewhere in between. Usually the answer probably should be somewhere in between on this. But a lot of this came up yesterday because New York has in the state, the entire state, which is to me a little much, but apparently New York has decided to ban this. So Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, made the announcement on the moratorium Tuesday in an executive order that suspends permitting for data centers while her administration works on a regulatory framework as data center development threatens to hike up utility bills, she says, deplete our natural resources, and create uncertainty for New Yorkers. Go ahead if you can, Walker. Play the Kathy Hochul cut one for me. This was her making the announcement this week.
I want to make sure that if they're going to come those localities will reap substantial benefits. The bigger the data center, the bigger the investments that communities can and should expect. We also want to make sure that labor has a seat at the table, so projects can include wage standards and labor agreements and prioritize local hiring. The final part of my plan is to ensure that these hyperscale data centers do not receive tax benefits, full stop.
All right, then later she spoke with ABC News on the issue, expanded on this a little bit. Play cut 2 of her for me.
Bring your own power or pay a premium to use the grid, because I already have a shortage of power for the existing businesses and our hardworking New Yorkers who are paying through the nose in utility bills. I can't say they're going to be charged more because of the existence of these companies. We came up with a threshold of 50 megawatts as defining the larger ones. Those smaller are not affected. But again, I want to get this right. And I know there's a lot of anxiety around AI overall. And I announced this in my State of the State long before campaign season, that I want these huge consumers of power to pay their own way. It's only fair, and that's what I'm fighting for.
So the real question is there any evidence that they do consume too much power? That is something we really need to be concerned about in terms of it'll raise rates and mess with the grid and everything else. But it's also interesting to me that you hear her mention it. She says, I know there's some fear about AI generally. That's where a lot of this comes from. There is just something in our culture that is very nervous about AI and the future of AI for different reasons. And there's also sort of people are against big tech and all that stuff. The media's bought into a lot of this. Now, I know as well there was a New York State lawmaker who was putting forward this bill in the New York legislature, Kristen Gonzalez. Play the Kristen Gonzalez cut for me.
It acknowledges that we are not in a place where we can build a number of hyperscale data centers across the state and not see negative impacts on our environmental resources, on our energy bills, on our water bills, and more. And so the bill, first and foremost, implements a 1-year moratorium on any state permits being issued for the biggest of the biggest data centers. Any data centers that are 20 megawatts and above, which are on a much, much larger scale than anything we've really seen before. And it also includes language around an environmental impact report and public engagement so that we can actually start polling New Yorkers to get a sense of what they think about this issue and understand the widespread impacts across our state on land, on pollution, on water, on energy, and on local communities. New York uses 31,000 megawatts on average a year. So that would be equivalent to adding about a third of New York State onto the grid. And knowing that we are already at the point where we might have rolling blackouts, there is certainly no way that we can accommodate this scale and this widespread need for energy for these hyperscale data centers. We cannot afford to have a strained energy grid, and we cannot afford to pay higher energy bills if we did nothing. Any omnibus like this doesn't just happen. It happens because there was both internal political will and momentum, but also mass outside organizing, which shows us that not only is this issue popular, but that everyday New Yorkers can organize.
So now the accusation, and there's some truth to this, the accusation is a lot of this is being ginned up from outside our country. China and Russia, they don't want us to be the leader in AI. Of course they don't. They're our adversaries. So they're putting up propaganda in this country to get people against data centers. And there's definitely some truth to that. But it's interesting, when I first thought about this issue, it reminded me of the fracking stuff. I remember a few years ago, fracking really became a big thing. It helped us become a net energy exporter. It's been really good for this country, but you started to see, especially Democrat states, wanting to ban it, saying it was going to ruin the water, it was going to ruin the environment, it's going to create earthquakes and all this stuff. And, of course, climate change. And this is very similar to that in my mind, because a lot of that was just nonsense. Let's be honest, and we're finding out. It's been a good thing that this country has been doing fracking. Now, apparently, I'm not the only one who thought of that. I was looking here at the Wall Street Journal, the editorial board. They said New York and their ban on fracking for oil and gas has been an act of monumental self-sabotage, Now, Governor Kathy Hochul is making similar blunders by imposing a 1-year pause on new large AI data centers. Why are Democrats so intent on blocking development that would benefit their citizens? And I do want you to answer. Let me know if you think it would benefit. I mean, Tommy Tuberville, we talked about that not too long ago. He thinks it would benefit Alabama. So this got even more attention yesterday because President Trump, of course, came out, posted on Truth Social. And he said one of the biggest driving forces in the future for jobs and data centers. They are big, strong, bold, and money machines for the state in which they are built. I have a feeling Tuberville might have had a conversation with Trump before he started talking about this recently. I just get that feeling. But he says Governor Kathy Hochul, for political reasons, has terminated all data centers being built or to be built in New York State. These companies are now being sought in Alabama. Alabama mentioned first. I think they had a conversation. Alabama, Florida, Texas, Arizona, and many other states. Both the taxes and the jobs amount to liquid gold, he says. New York State has made a terrible decision. All of this income and other benefits will be going to red states and some blue, where data centers are sought as cash cows with lower taxes and record-setting jobs. They must pay for their own water and power, and any leftover goes back to the state and local community. Data centers are tremendous wins for the states and communities that are lucky enough to get them. New York should change its policy immediately. This is Trump writing on Truth Social. Said the radical left Democrats must not be allowed to cause us to lose data centers, AI, and all of this incredible new technology to China and other countries. Now, he's right about that, because I've talked to some people who I like who say we should just not do this. We need to stop with AI stuff. That is exactly the wrong answer. But there's also the question, okay, does it really cause, say, higher electricity prices in the area? Well, according to a June, and I got this from the City Journal, and there are other studies on this as well, but according to a June paper for Columbia University Center for Global Energy Policy, they found that recent price increases were driven not by demand for new users such as data centers, but by a host of other factors. These include grid hardening and expansion, disaster recovery, volatile fuel prices, and regulatory mandates. States with greater load growth generally saw smaller price increases or even price declines. So areas where they updated the grid to add for more load, for say data centers, actually saw price declines. Where it's a lot of the Democrat states who have a lot of regulations put in, and they added a bunch of what's called green energy and all that stuff, actually made it even more expensive in those regions. So blaming data centers doesn't seem to make sense. Although there was also a study done in the state of Tennessee, and this was done by a think tank called Think Tennessee, where they said Tennessee residents living near data centers saw on average a 3.2% increase on their electricity bills between 2023 and 2024, whereas commercial consumers, such as data centers, saw their electricity bills decrease by 0.2%. It says increases in Tennessee's regions and home to data centers outstripped increases in other parts of the state. I tend to still think this is a moral panic. Obviously, we have to look. Anytime you build any type of big industrial building, there's always the concern about electricity, water, infrastructure. It doesn't matter if it's a data center or whatever. So, of course, you have to look into that. But just doing a blanket ban for a whole state on new data centers, that doesn't seem like a logical response to me. That seems like a moral panic. And a lot of it is being ginned up by countries like Russia and China. I think Trump's right on that. I really do. But you can tell me what you think. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We'll be back in a moment here on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
The Yaffee program.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Glad you've joined the show today. If you've missed any of the show live, as you know, you can check the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. All right, let's get to the headlines right now. Once again, we have those Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, U.S. Senator Katie Britt is supporting the Sanctioning Russia Act of 2026, which was supported by Lindsey Graham before he tragically passed away. So it was a bipartisan bill that was one of the late Senator Lindsey Graham's final major legislative priorities. On Tuesday, Britt joined senators from both parties to promote the measure, which would impose tariffs of up to 100% on countries that continue buying Russian oil and natural gas, along with broader sanctions designed to cut off revenue fueling Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. Now, Britt highlighted that Graham viewed the legislation as potentially the most consequential of his Senate career and worked on it relentlessly until days before his death, including securing an agreement with the Trump administration for an updated version that includes presidential waiver authority. The bill aims to give President Trump a strong economic tool to pressure Russia to end its invasion while maintaining flexibility. Number 3 today, Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall slams Jack Smith's weaponization of the Department of Justice and urges the new Attorney General to investigate. So Marshall criticized former Special Prosecutor Jack Smith. He did this on Newsmax's Rob Schmidt Tonight Show, accusing him of weaponizing the binary Department of Justice against political opponents, especially in the investigation of President Donald Trump. Now, Marshall's comments followed U.S. Senator Chuck Grassley's allegation that Smith illegally obtained text messages from 44 members of Congress. Marshall called for federal investigators to examine these actions, which he said violated legal protocols and DOJ policies, and urged acting U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche during his Senate confirmation hearing to investigate the matter thoroughly and hold those responsible accountable. So Todd Blanche had his hearing yesterday. Of course, the Epstein files came up. Well, that was a couple of days ago, but so hopefully he gets confirmed. Number 2 today, the American Islamic Council condemns Tuberville for what they say he is doing. They say he is setting the stage for violence against Muslims. That's right, the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, the nation's largest Muslim advocacy group, even though they've had ties to terrorist organizations in the past, strongly condemned U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville for remarks he made on the Senate floor in which he described Islam as not a religion, it's a death cult, and warned of its incompatibility with Judeo-Christian values and its threat to the United States. Now, CARE's government affairs director accused the senator of setting the stage for violence against ordinary American Muslims by legitimizing anti-Muslim hatred, discrimination, and bias-motivated attacks, arguing that the comments undermine religious freedom and the First Amendment. This is not the first clash between Tuberville and CARE, which previously labeled him an anti-Muslim extremist in 2025. Now, Tuberville wants to ban Sharia law. We've talked about that before. Number 1 today, U.S. Senator Katie Britt targets predatory gambling aimed at minors during the Todd Blanche hearing that happened this week. So that's right, Britt highlighted the growing problem of predatory gambling targeting minors during a Capitol Hill hearing with Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. She cited a 2024 study showing that people who started gambling before age 18 are 50% more likely to develop an addiction, describing it as a major issue, especially among young men. Now, Britt referenced a recent Alabama case where 10 men pleaded guilty to a massive illegal sports betting operation, handling over $2 billion in wagers from offshore server in Costa Rica or something. That's kind of crazy. Now, she promoted the Bipartisan Game Act, which she co-introduced with Senator Richard Blumenthal, who's a Democrat from Connecticut, to ban social media and advertising platforms from targeting minors with sports betting ads, with penalties up to $100,000 per violation for repeat offenders. Britt also noted a letter sent to the DOJ urging action against illegal offshore gambling operations. So that's definitely something that's going to keep coming up. This issue of gambling, as more and more places legalize gambling, sports betting, and everything else. There always have to be some regulations because when you're dealing with kids, and obviously kids are into sports too and everything else, you have to make sure they don't get addicted to it or whatever. If you want a nice place to shop, maybe you got an anniversary coming up, a birthday coming up, or whatever it might be, a wedding coming up, go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn in Madison. It's off Greenbrier Exit 3. It's next to that big rusty water tower. You've seen it so many times. They're off 565. Go into the shop, and you're going to see it's a huge facility. So much to buy because, they got so much to sell you. Honestly, new and used firearms, jewelry, lawn equipment, music equipment, clothing, miscellaneous stuff, and Larry's Firearm Collection Museum is cool to look at in the back of the store. So go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn today or go to the website right now, pistolandpawn.com. That's pistolandpawn.com. When you go, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. We'll be back in a moment here in the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
Part of what makes this show is the show within the show. The biggest topic on the show always seems to be the show itself. This is a way to give you clones a way to interact with one another. Yes, we will be going through the chat. Yes, it'll be a part of the program. The only thing that could ruin the show are the old school clones spitting up the same bull crap that they always have. The jungle is out taking names and ready to dominate. Let's get
The
it.
Jim Rome Show podcast. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We're here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's voice of reason, but you already knew that. If you miss any of the show live, check out the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. So there was a story done last week from YellowHammerNews.com. Read some of it here. It says Alabama community colleges will now train and certify police officers under new state pathway. So the Alabama Community College System and the Alabama Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission announced a new certification pathway last Thursday at the Alabama State House, opening a route for criminal justice students to earn a full law enforcement certification alongside their associate degree. So this is part of the effort from the legislature when it comes to law enforcement recruiting, which some areas have had some issues. Now, in the 2025 legislative session, there were two bills driven by State Representative Rex Reynolds on this, the Safe Alabama package and the Back the Blue Protection Act. So we're going to talk with State Representative Rex Reynolds out of Huntsville right now. Thank you so much for coming on, sir.
Thank you, Yaffee. Glad to be on.
So, talk about this a little bit, about this effort and what we can do as a state when it comes to recruiting law enforcement, because obviously we believe in good law and order in Alabama.
Absolutely. As you know, Yaffee, it's been tough to recruit police officers, and it's gotten better in the last few years. Certainly that was kind of the premise behind the Back to Blue bill, to make sure that these people that we're recruiting and those working for us now, that they know that we've got their back, and just kind of giving them some coverage there from liability, but both civil and criminal, just to kind of pause any type of action against them, to have a judge review it, no different than any other citizen would get, such as in a stand your ground law applies today. But I'm excited about this new initiative, and what A Post is doing in this, and what our college system is doing, is no different than what they have been doing for years. However, this is now a partnership. And because of that partnership, it's going to expedite an individual's ability to go through their criminal justice programs. And then toward the end, as they go through a PT test and go through a background test, they can, based on the MOU that was done with this partnership, they can move into an agency before the age of 19 and work with that agency in a quote, non-police role until they're 19 years old, where they can stay on full time. I think that's huge in capturing these young cadets and training them into a police officer. And I think it's going to help us across the state.
So, it's good to have this effort. Why do you think we've had an issue in the past when it comes to recruiting? Are some people just, because of the current social environment in this country, or some people just reluctant to become law enforcement officers? Or, what else can be done here?
Well, it has been. I think we went through a period of time in America that quite frankly, we had politicians at the national level that created an environment that the police officers weren't the good guys anymore, and that's tough. And it's we begin to change that around. I feel like in the last few years, we'll continue to do that in Alabama. We'll ensure them that we want to hire the best and most qualified applicants here, and you're seeing we increased the pay for Alabama State Troopers. You're seeing a lot of our major cities that are able to increase their pay to recruit and retain the officers they have. So I think we're going in the right direction.
So do you expect any new bills to come up next year on this issue?
Well, there may be. As we go into this new partnership, there may be things that we need to tweak. However, the legislative, we kind of provide that authority to APOST now, and they report to a board. Typically, that board is made up of either current or former police chiefs and sheriffs, and they can make a lot of these adjustments as we go. But this may be something we want to expand beyond our 2-year college system. I can see our 4-year college systems doing this, and it's. I just think it's creating a great environment. We've got some great schools with really great CJ programs now, and we just want to expedite that program to get them from the classroom to our patrol cars in Alabama.
I'm speaking with State Representative Rex Reynolds out of Huntsville. On the issue of law and order, are you excited about a Governor Tuberville? It seems like he really wants to take that head on because we've had crime issues in Birmingham, Montgomery. The Max unit has done pretty well, but I mean, you look at what, say, partnering with Trump, the Memphis Safe Task Force in Tennessee has done, in Washington, D.C. as well. Tuberville says if he has to, he will send the National Guard to places like Montgomery. Are you excited about that? Is that something maybe we need in this state?
I think that conversation will be front and center when the legislature comes back in 27. We do have some cities that we continue to see violent crime on the increase, and we had that bill ready to go, and that related to the state, the law alias takeover of cities. We wanted to fine tune that piece of legislation. As you know, I had a substitute for that bill if it had made it to the House floor, and that was just to kind of better clear up some language about the definition of a police officer, and also about, there was some language in there about taking Rebuild Alabama monies away from those cities. But being the budget chair, I couldn't support that because a lot of these cities have leveraged that funding to go to the bond market to build infrastructure in their cities. So we had some language in there to clean that up, but I think we'll continue to look at that. We really want to look at Montgomery specifically, see how they've done on their recruiting, and look at their numbers. And I think a Tommy Tuberville governor would support that 100%.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that as well. So you're right, because that bill ended up not passing in the last legislative session in terms of forcing a certain amount of law enforcement on certain areas. And it was said, like you said, some of the language. So you think once that's cleared up, something will pass on that?
I do, and we worked with the Senate and really down to the 11th hour there, and just the logistics of that last day, it never made it on the calendar in the House. So we'll continue to have that conversation. Senator Barfoot continues to support that legislation, and we'll work with him if need be going into the February session.
Speaking with State Representative Rex Reynolds, did want to ask you about something else real quick. I don't know how much you've looked at this, but it's become a national issue, but also something in Alabama where certain areas want to have moratoriums or bans on data centers. Obviously, a lot of new data centers need to be built because AI is becoming a thing and for other reasons as well. Trump came out yesterday, though, and said, look, Alabama is going to benefit if other states ban them. Tuberville said, look, we need to have data centers are coming. It's going to be good for the economy. Have you heard anything about that from your constituents? Any concerns about the building of new data centers, even in this area?
I am starting to get a few emails regarding that, Yaffee. As you know, we have two major data centers in Huntsville, and I think that's probably in this area. That's probably enough for our area. It's a huge strain. Of course, that's a TVA direct utility. But it still puts a huge strain on our available power for recruiting industry. So we look at that, compare that to kind of the number of jobs it brings, and kind of make those decisions going forward. And as we've seen play out, as you say, we're seeing that play out in other communities. And I think each community's got to make that decision, based on other jobs and other industries that they're recruiting, and make the best decision for what fits their geographic area.
Yeah, so it's more of like a case-by-case basis, not, maybe a total moratorium for a whole state isn't a good idea, but, might be better for some areas than other areas.
There may be places in Alabama that would welcome a data center. They would welcome the jobs and welcome the sale of that energy in that area. So, I think a statewide, a moratorium on that would probably not be the right direction to go. But let them decide, just like we do any economic development deal in Alabama. And I think we've done a good job, from the Tennessee line to the coast of Alabama doing exactly that.
State Representative Rex Reynolds, is there anything else you're working on that you wanted to highlight before I let you go?
No, I don't think so. Just got home from the SLC, Southeastern Legislative Conference. I serve as the Speaker's appointment to the Human Resources and Public Safety Committee, and had a lot of conversations there. The ibogaine drug came up there, tied up about an hour of our committee. That was a surprise. So that may be something that states begin to look at. And I think there's been some trials in some of the operators that's come out of our military, and I think they've seen some early success. I think Texas has moved forward with some research. So that's probably another topic we dive into soon.
Well, and what was the drug you said it was?
The ibogaine.
Well, what is I have to admit I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, it really controlled our conversation in our committee meeting. And once Alabama, it was time for Alabama to present, then we got back to talking about the impact of SNAP and the administrative changes and Medicaid, and of course gave them a brief on where we're at on the expansion of mental health in Alabama. Okay, very interesting. State Representative Rex Reynolds. Yeah, we'll probably have to bring you on in the future to talk more about that. And I really appreciate you coming on today. I know we'll talk to you again soon. Sounds good. Thank you, Yaffee. All right, if you want to react to any of that, we have our Yaffee text line. As you know, I do have some texts coming in right now on the data center issue. One person said, I think Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, is mostly virtue signaling to the rabid enviro tree hugger faction of the heavily curated Dem voting base with their data center ban. I do think a lot of this is virtue signaling, I have to admit. There's probably some truth to that. Charles weighed in on the text line, said, Bridgeport, Alabama's Google data center, unlike the vast majority now coming to the state, is contracted to provide community accountability and grid modernization. Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening, because these big companies that want the data centers, they want them. I mean, they need them for their AI. And I think they're going to be willing to actually add to the grid through whatever that might be, some kind of resource where they produce more energy for the grid or help with the expansion of the grid. I think they're going to be willing to do that because they need the data centers. And they want certain areas to allow them to happen. So that's probably going to be a big compromise here, but we'll have to see. If you want to weigh in, yes, you can. The Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. We'll be back here in just a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. It's a revolution in common sense here on WVNN. We're here 9 to 11 a.m. Monday through Friday. So the Democratic Socialists talk about the opposite of common sense here. The Democratic Socialists of America, which, I mean, they're a pretty fringe group, but unfortunately they've gained prominence in recent months because some of their candidates are winning elections in places like New York. But they came out with a new platform. What's included in their platform? No bills. I kid you not. We're just going to get rid of bills. And when I say, I'm not talking about like the Buffalo Bills or something. I'm talking like bills you have to pay for in order to survive. They just want to get rid of that. In fact, I grab a cut of them talking about this at one of their meetings. Play the Democrat Socialist cut for me, Walker.
You're able to take a day off and not have to worry. And you don't have to have a job just to pay the bills because you don't have a lot of bills, right? Bills are no longer a thing because there's not for-profit businesses that are constantly trying to exploit you and trying to, put you into debt.
All right. So every part of that premise is wrong. Every part of that premise. And there was a part of the cut there that I couldn't find, but I heard it before, where she said, this is about freedom. And it goes back to something I've said before. When you're talking about democratic socialists, they believe freedom comes from freedom from responsibility. That you can only get true freedom in your life if you take away responsibility. If you don't have to pay bills or get a job, I'm free now, I'm free. Well, that's not real freedom. But the idea of not having to pay bills, their whole point is that they will take away for-profit businesses. You basically give all responsibility to the state. The state will take care of you, and then you'll have time to use your money for other things. What's the problem with all of that thinking? You know this. I don't have to tell you this. But the problem with that thinking is things have to be produced. All of the things that we pay for, when you have a bill, electricity, whatever, it doesn't just exist in nature. It's not just there. It has to be produced. It has to be made. Well, in order to do that on a productive level, you have to have incentives in order to make those things. So that's why you need to have a profit and make money. So this idea that you abolish all that and you have a utopia, it's been tried before. It doesn't work. It just doesn't work because it's not based in reality. Rush used to say all the time, I live in Realville. In Realville, something like that sounds nice, but it's not based on any kind of reality. Because in order to get the things that you have to pay bills for, they have to be made. You think the government's just going to do it? It doesn't just exist out there. So that's part of it. They also had part of their platform, no Senate and no president. They wanted to just be, I guess, the House of Representatives. They say that's more democratic. But I keep reminding you that, yes, democracy is a part of our system. It is. It's a big part of our system, but it's not the only part. One of the more important parts actually isn't just democracy, it's individual rights. And sometimes protecting those rights means you have to have a balanced government, which is why you have the House, more democratic, and then the Senate, and then the presidency and the judiciary. Democracy alone doesn't secure your rights. I know some people don't want to believe that. Oh, it's uncomfortable to say, but it's true. Now, I wanted to play this cut here as well from J.D. Vance. He was on Joe Rogan recently talking about, why young people are attracted to socialism these days. Play the J.D. Vance cut one for me.
And maybe this is just sort of the way my mind works. I tend to be a little bit more empathetic. Why are young people attracted to socialism in 21st century America? One of the best interviews that Charlie Kirk ever gave, it was right before he died. It was an episode that he did with Tucker Carlson where he talked about the fact that if you don't give young people a stake, if you don't give them ownership, if you don't give them a sense of the American dream and of possibility in the future, they're going to become socialists. Like if you have a zero-sum environment for a 25-year-old in this country, they're going to start to say the only way for me to get anything is to take away from somebody else. So we have to get away from like the zero-sum thinking. I think that's like the root cause of this.
So he's basically saying that we need to get back to ownership instead of just renting things. It's one of the root causes. I don't know if that's absolutely the root cause, but there is some truth to the fact that when you own something like a house, you put more of a stake into it. That was one of the problems with like the projects. There was no real ownership. They put them in these giant buildings that they were renting, and there was no real stake in it, and it caused a lot of problems. We'll talk more about that later. You can weigh in on the Yaffee text line. Right now, I do want to talk to you about my good friends at VIP Care. One of the issues in the economy right now, yes, is healthcare. Well, that's why VIP Care is there for you. They have a heart for seniors as well. So if you're 65 years and older, or maybe you know someone who is, they can help you out. They don't just treat illnesses and symptoms. They find out what's causing them. Their doctors listen, ask questions, and work with you to create a care plan that fits your needs. So go to the website, make an appointment right now, getvipcare.com. If you go to the website, you can find a clinic close to you. They have a team of Medicare experts as well to help you navigate our current healthcare system, which, can be hard sometimes. Go to getvipcare.com. Make an appointment today, getvipcare.com. When you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. We'll be back with Christopher Reed in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
Scrolling with Haley.
I am Haley Karania. I scroll with the homies here in the live chat because there's a lot to scroll through on X, on Instagram, on TikTok.
Cutting through the clutter, one hot take at a time.
Love seeing you all in the chat before the show. I tried to jump in just a few minutes before to say hello. I love the chat interaction. Thank you for helping. But I do it to get all of the videos and all of the content that you won't find anywhere else.
Scrolling with Haley.
Just search that up and I will be there.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee program on WVNN.
We are here the second hour of the Yaffee program on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience. Don't forget to like the Yaffee Facebook page or follow me on X at Yaffee or Instagram at Yaffee Live. So the Democrats, Socialists of America, they have a new platform. Now, there might have been a time where we really didn't have to care about that, but they're starting to win elections, which is concerning. Part of that platform, no Senate, no president, no ICE, no bills. And I kid you not, that's one of them. Got to talk about that right now with Christopher Reed. He is host of The Daily Controversy. You can check out his show at thedailycontroversy.com or the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. Chris, so I guess it's not too surprising that the Democrat Socialists of America have kind of a radical platform like this, but I did want to get your reaction.
Yeah, this all goes back to something, and I think we've talked about it. We had a lot of reforms to mental asylums in the 70s, but we went way too far, made it really too hard to commit people like this, because we have half as many people in insane asylums now, and we have double the population, and we have a lot more crazy people. But, yeah, I mean, if you want to abolish the Senate and then, I guess, not have a president, you just got to be insane. And the funny thing is the Democrat Socialists of America, it's 85% white people. It's like 80% college educated, 73 to 75% female. So it's like it's a lot of these liberal white single females that just got indoctrinated in college, and they got these insane ideas. And because no man will talk to them, I guess they started their own party. But I mean, that's all I can say for it. I can't give you a rational reason why you'd want to abolish the Senate and get rid of the president. And they also want to get rid of the judiciary as well. So I guess we won't have judges.
Yeah, which is crazy. Well, and the way they get away with this is they say, well, we just want to be more democratic. And I keep reminding people, yes, democracy is a part of our system, but not the only part. You have to have checks and balances, even, yes, for democracy. Individual rights are a part of our system, minority rights, and an impartial judge. You have to have all of those things to really have freedom, right?
You know what Benjamin Franklin said, democracies have been as short in their lives as they have been violent in their deaths. And that's why we have a constitutional republic. We did not want a democracy. We wanted to have a separation. We have elected representatives, and then we have the House is more democratic. The Senate, that's even if your state's really big or small or whatever, you get the same amount of people, and then you have a separate Supreme Court. So we wanted to do these checks and balances because the thing our founders wanted to avoid more than anything is exactly what those crazy ladies want to do, and that's to just have a Congress that I guess is the president and judge and all these crazy things. And people say, well, that's kind of like the parliamentary system in England. Is like, no, it's actually not. They actually do have independent judiciary, and they have a House of Lords, which is their Senate. So, yeah, I mean, these people are nuts, but they are winning elections. And by the way, a recent poll showed that among Democrat voters, the DSA has a plus 17 favorability rating, whereas the establishment Democrat side has a plus 4 favorability rating. So this is not a one-off. I mean, these people are much more popular amongst Democrat voters than the actual Democrat Party.
Well, that's pretty scary, I guess. By the way, you were talking about the part, abolishing the Senate and the president. What about bills? Someone said we won't have bills to pay anymore because I guess the state will do it all. So we'll have freedom. That's how you get freedom. No bills. Any reaction to that?
Yeah, what they said is you only have to work if you feel like you need to, but nobody has to work if they don't want to. And everyone's going to basically get paid what they need. So if you're Elon Musk and you're working 90-hour weeks and creating rocket ships and 100,000 jobs, you're going to get paid as much as the guy in his basement who's smoking weed and hasn't worked a day in his life. That's really what they're proposing. They're proposing, everyone's going to get taken care of the same. We'll all get the same retirement. And the only thing communism does, this is communism, it'll make you equal in misery, and you still have the elites. The elites will just be the people running the government, and those people will be ridiculously wealthy. And so these people still want wealth. They just want to rob 99% of people of their wealth and make it like the Soviet Union.
Yeah, luckily we live in Alabama, so we don't have to worry about this quite as much. But obviously, if they take control of the House and the Senate one day and they're in maybe some of the big cities in Alabama, this is something we have to worry about even here, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest protection, though, is not – federalism is a big deal, right, because states have a lot of power. But more than that, it's the Second Amendment. It's really hard to impose tyrannical systems on a heavily armed populace. We have 400 million guns, about 1 trillion bullets. And so, if the government ever became so tyrannical where they were just rounding up innocent people and trying to put them in jail because they, didn't say the right thing, our populace would lawfully and rightfully rebel against that, because you kind of have to. Honestly, that's what our founders did. So I think that's the biggest thing that protects us. It's really not, the federalist system. It's the fact that we have the Second Amendment, and that's exactly why the founders wanted us to be armed, because they didn't want a tyrannical government to oppress us.
Speaking with Christopher Reed, he is host of The Daily Controversy. Wanted to talk to you as well about this issue with data centers, because you have areas in Tennessee, areas in Alabama wanting to have a moratorium on them. You have New York State announcing a moratorium, but then President Trump comes out, Senator Tommy Tuberville comes out. They say, no, we need the data centers. We support data centers. AI is going to be the future. What do you think about this whole issue? I tend to think it's a moral panic, that it reminds me of kind of the fracking stuff when everyone was afraid of fracking and they came up with all these reasons to be against it. It sounds like that to me, but what do you think?
It's interesting. Elon Musk said data centers within about 10 years will be heavily decreased in size. Now they're really huge. He thinks it'll decrease by 80 to 90%. So it might not even be an issue within a decade. But yeah, anyone listening to this right now, whether they're, radio, if you're on your phone or it's a podcast later, that's coming from, you need data centers to do that. Plus, these things bring in billions and billions of dollars. And a lot of people don't know this, but the new regulation on data centers was the president put in place for all the new ones being built. They have to be self-sufficient as far as power, meaning they can't raise your power rates. And there was a study done over the last couple of years showing that the data centers initially did raise power even with before the regulations, but because it forced the states to actually get more sources of electricity, the power bill after a few years came down lower from where it was a few years after that. So this is actually going to force us to build these smaller nuclear power plants and all these other things which we need for our electrical grid. And in the end, that'll be good because we'll have a lot more electricity. Our grid will be better. But anytime you have new technology, there'll be short-term cost. But you can't. We can't let China or Russia beat us in AI, because again, that would absolutely destroy us. They'd be able to hack everything. It's a national security issue. But a lot of people hear words like data centers, I'm against that. And then you ask them, okay, well, explain to me why. And they say, well, I saw a TikTok video. I'm like, okay, well, that's a great way to base your opinion, buddy.
Well, and that's something that's come up though, that a lot of the stuff coming out against this is coming from China, is coming from Russia. The propaganda is coming from them going on our social media, because, of course, they don't want us to be the leader in AI.
Yeah, obviously some of it is. Some of it is just people that anytime there's something new, people always oppose it. I mean, if you look back, whenever the car came in mass, there was people that really, really opposed it. I mean, when electricity came on, obviously there were industries that opposed it. This is a new technology. New technologies generally have initial pushback. That's been true here in most Western countries. So I think that's just more of a pattern. But you're right. China is pushing that propaganda really, really hard because they don't want us to succeed. But again, even if a couple of states do moratoriums, there's plenty of states like Alabama, for example, that are blood red states that, we're going to do it. Plus, we'll get billions of dollars in new revenue. And so it'll be great for the citizens of our states. You could actually decrease taxes on the average person because we have so much money coming in from these data centers.
Speaking with Christopher Reed, host of The Daily Controversy. Before I let you go, Chris, I always like to ask you about the latest in Iran, your thoughts. I mean, the memorandum of understanding pretty much over, no more ceasefire. Trump is supposed to speak in front of the nation tonight. Originally, they thought it was going to be about Iran, but maybe it's going to be about elections, the 2020 election or whatever. But what are your thoughts on the latest going on in Iran today?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we don't have a choice. We gave them every opportunity. We offered the Iranians $60 billion a month for them to sell gas legally, $300 billion new investment, not from us, but from their Sunni neighbors. They rejected all of it. And so I think at this point, what the easiest thing to do and the quickest, right, is you take out all the leadership in Iran, and then you offer the new leadership saying, hey, you guys want this deal? If they say no, you kill all of them. And honestly, that's the only way you're going to do it, because eventually you'll get to a group of people that have seen the next 5 groups all get taken out by bombs. And there'll be some people in that group that says, you know what, I kind of enjoy breathing. But I hate that that's the reality. I hate we have to do things like that. I wish it wasn't that way. But that's the option Trump is looking at. And we know that because the Israelis are getting more involved covertly. We had a lot of reports on that. And those guys don't have restrictions on killing leaders of other countries. And that's the reason that we partner with them, because they do things that we can't, which is actually really good.
And before I let you go, actually, I did want to ask you as well. I mean, we were talking about Iran. Obviously, a hawk on Iran was Lindsey Graham. He did pass away suddenly over the weekend. Any thoughts about his legacy other than, being a foreign policy hawk, but what else?
Yeah, I mean, he was very successful. I will say this in a positive way. He voted for every one of Trump's nominations on judiciary. He voted for every piece of legislation that Trump would said this is what we need. He never opposed him on anything like that. So he was like, we're conservative Republicans. He's more establishment, but he's a party guy. So when the party went hardcore against amnesty, he's like, all right, let's go hardcore against amnesty. And when it was like, we want to get rid of the filibuster, Lindsey Graham, you wouldn't suspect, said, we got to get rid of the filibuster because we can't get anything done. So Lindsey Graham, people say, well, that makes him a chameleon. I don't think so. I think it makes him saying, like, look, this is what the majority of my voters want. I represent them. I represent the people of South Carolina. And if 95% of them want the SAVE Act, and the only way to get that is to end the filibuster, he was willing to do it. So I think he was pragmatic. And finally, he died one of the poorest senators really ever. He never traded stocks, never did anything. I think he had like $1.4 million. That sounds like a lot, but he never benefited from being in power, and he never gave money to like his family or friends or anything like that. So I think it says a lot about him. He had a lot of personal integrity, that the only money he ever got was from the military and from his congressional salary.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people have brought that up, which is a really, really good point. Although it also says something when you're worth $1.4 million and that makes you one of the poorer senators, that really exposes the problem that you're talking about, that you have that much money and that's considered poor in terms of the Senate. It's kind of crazy to think about. Christopher Reed, thank you so much for coming on. Once again, you can check out his show at thedailycontroversy.com. Chris, appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Sounds great. Thanks.
All right, there you go. You can react to that on the Yaffee text line. And by the way, his show is on 2 to 4 p.m. right here on WVNN. Daylight savings time is making it permanent. Is that going to pass in the Senate? I told you I'm a little skeptical it's going to get there. So we'll talk about that and much more next on the Yaffee program.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Good to be back with you on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's Truth Czar. This is Huntsville's Disinformation Board, as you know. Someone weighing in on the text line here, on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, talking about the Democrat Socialists of America and their platform. A person said here, to live in Socialistville, not Realville, the government will ensure everything you need, according to their definition of need, will be produced and provided to you by the state. They will take your money that you earn from working for the socialist government and what you have already saved to pay for government production processes. Doesn't this appeal to everybody who votes for these democratic socialists and the regular Democrats and low information voters who have drunk this Kool-Aid? So that's what the texter said. Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, they don't live in Realville. It's like you said, Socialistville. It's not Realville. So yesterday at this time, we were talking about the whole issue of daylight savings time because pretty much every member of the Alabama congressional delegation voted in favor of making daylight savings time permanent. In Alabama, a couple of years ago, passed a law that once Congress does it, ours would go to making it permanent. But I told you I'm not sure it's going to pass the Senate. And I saw this story from Yahoo News. Just kind of tell you a little bit why. Now, I told you my opinion as well. I don't really care that much either way. I don't understand the obsession with this. It's 1 hour twice a year. And I keep saying you're never going to make everyone happy on this because we can't change how the earth rotates around the sun. No matter what we do, days will get shorter parts of the year and will get longer parts of the year, no matter what we do. Now, some people said just make it a half hour change. Okay, sure. But according to Yahoo News here, it says many Americans rejoiced on Tuesday after the U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill that would make daylight savings time permanent nationwide and end the biannual chore of changing the clocks to spring forward and fall back. It now heads to the Senate where its future looks dim. This is why. After the lopsided 308 to 117 vote, Republican Representative Gus Belrakis of Florida dismissed America's twice-yearly clock change as a relic of the past. So this is called the Sunshine Protection Act. President Trump supports it. As I said, the Alabama delegation supports it. Tommy Tuberville supports it. But it was in a floor speech last year where Tom Cotton of Arkansas, senator there, a Republican who usually aligns with Trump, he spoke out strongly against it. And this was kind of one of the issues, too, that Congressman Robert Aderholt said. He's the congressman out of Haleyville, Alabama. He had worried about what's going to do in the mornings, especially for kids going to school. But Tom Cotton said the advocates for permanent daylight savings time try to put, well, a sunny face on this bill. Of course, that's what he said. It would mean more daylight hours and more smiles. But the truth, Cotton continued, would be much darker, pun intended. Yeah, yesterday I was doing a bunch of puns on this issue. I'm not the only one. I think he's a dad, too. Got to have the dad jokes. But he said daylight savings time doesn't actually create more daylight, of course. It simply adjusts the clocks. So an hour of daylight that would normally occur in the early morning instead occurs in the evening. But he said, quote, by moving the clock back an hour in winter, permanent daylight savings time would push winter sunrises to an absurdly late hour, depriving Americans of morning sunshine that is essential for our safety and well-being. Now, on Tuesday, Semaphore reported that Cotton still opposes the permanent daylight savings time bill and that he is not alone. So the outlet then listed a dozen other senators, Republicans and Democrats, who serve on the Senate Commerce Committee and previously voted against making daylight savings time permanent. So the ones against it, and like I said, it doesn't take much because we talk about, how split it is already. Although this is kind of a bipartisan issue. This isn't your current left or right issue, I've noticed. But John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader of South Dakota, is against it. Roger Wicker of Mississippi is against it. Deb Fischer of Nebraska is against it. Jerry Moran of Kansas is against it. Dan Sullivan of Alaska is against it. Ted Budd of North Carolina. Tim Sheehy of Montana. Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota is against it, which is interesting. Gary Peters of Michigan. Tammy Duckworth of Illinois. And Lisa Blunt of Delaware. It says it's unclear when the Sunshine Protection Act will come up for a vote in the Senate. It's also unclear whether all of these senators would still oppose it. But if they did, that would be enough to kill the bill. And with it, Trump's dream of a longer, brighter day, which 56% of Americans say they share. So it's one of those issues where I guess the majority of Americans, the majority of Americans, they want more daylight in the evening. They think that's better. But as I mentioned, especially in different areas of the country, it's going to create a problem in the morning. And you just can't ignore that. And you can't change how the sun actually works, as I've been trying to. I feel like people are forgetting that the days will still be shorter. We can't change how the earth rotates around the sun, so to speak. But you can give me your opinion on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Do want to tell you real quick about my good friends at Jay's Appliance Outlet. They want to help you upgrade your home with better appliances and smart savings. So they have 0% interest financing available for you, flexible monthly payments designed for your budgets. That's going to help you out, of course. They also have affordable delivery options. That's right. Get your appliances delivered fast and hassle-free. So if you're looking for maybe a new washer or dryer, they have high-performance washers and dryers from top brands. They have smart appliances as well. Luxury kitchen collections are on sale right now at Jay's Appliance Outlet. So find out more on the website, jaysapplianceoutlet.com. Dial pound 250, say the keywords Jay's Appliance Outlet, or of course go to the showroom off 72 in Athens, next to the Dollar General, the Pep Boys up there. When you go, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. We'll be back here, and we got What's Trending coming up next, so we'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Jeff Jarrett, great to see you.
In this business, the story behind the scenes, so much more entertaining than what you see on camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
Mr. Heyman, you are a master at the little things. That's how you turn good into great.
What does it take to achieve greatness? Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do.
That's an Emmy-winning performance.
How about it?
Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We're here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. The revolution in common sense, doing my part to make radio great again. Dale ruins it every day, and then after him, I have to make it great again. That's how this goes. All right, Walker is here as well, so let's do it. We have What's Trending with Walker.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Sponsored by Coleman Furniture Market, which is located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama, the best furniture store in the universe. So if you need new furniture, whether it's living room furniture, dining room furniture, bedroom furniture, by the way, I've gotten all those different kinds of furniture for my house from Coleman Furniture Market for a reason. They have the best selection, the best brands, and the best prices. In fact, you can get same as cash financing options. They can deliver to anywhere in the state. Their in-house design team, they're there always to help you pick out what's good for your home and much, much more. Go to ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. See some of the latest stuff on their Facebook page or their Instagram page, or go to their showroom in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. When you do, they always have What's Trending in furniture. Make sure to tell them Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, Walker, what is number 5 today?
Number 5 today. In Minneapolis, a joke that was made on April Fool's earlier this year has become a reality. As a live music venue posted on Instagram a Trader Joe's versus Aldi rave.
And that was a joke.
Yes, it was a joke. But it has now become a reality as people show up wearing Aldi bags cut as shirts, skirts.
I know. You sent me the picture, and it's like, I didn't realize you could do this with Aldi bags, but all right.
Yeah, and the people that own the music venue said that people are passionate about the brands they like. And apparently there's nothing like Trader Joe's and Aldi.
Well, they were owned by the same people, I believe. Or it was like one was the brother of the other or something like that.
Okay.
No, I'm trying to remember that. So there's a reason why there's a feud between those two specific brands. But somebody tell me in the text line, because I forget what that was. But yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd ever go to a rave.
I don't think I would either, but they took it a couple steps further by playing the music that you would typically hear in the aisles of each store. And then they even had videos on the wall of just a mashup of grocery store related clips from like movies and shows.
So just so everyone knows, yeah, Aldi and Trader Joe's share the same German parent company, but of course offer distinctly different shopping experiences. So yeah, that's part of this. They're both originally from Germany. See, I'd be the guy that would show up in the Publix bag. Let's be honest here.
The Publix bag.
I mean, they're doing Aldi versus Trader Joe's. I'm like, guys, Publix is the best place. What are you guys talking about here? So
yeah, apparently 900 people showed up.
Jeez. Man, people have too much spare time, I think, is what that is the lesson I got from that. Jeez Louise. All right, what's number 4?
Number 4, in Maryland, a burglar attempting to do a bank robbery used a kitten that they had also stolen as like an accessory. They
stole the kitten and then used it?
Yes. They asked the bank teller to hold the kitten while they like started writing a note. And of course, when he handed it to her, it was saying to give him all the cash. And I guess that the cat was a distraction.
I guess it would have been funny if she like threw the cat on the bank robber and it like clawed him and then he had to run away or something.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, ha
ha. It was only a 3.5-month-old kitten.
Oh, poor kitty.
Yeah, it had been stolen from an adoption habitat in a Pet Supplies Plus store. And then he just walked across the parking lot to a bank.
This guy needed some help, it sounds like, to begin with. Something not right there with that guy.
Yeah, thankfully, both the robbery was unsuccessful and the cat was taken to a local shelter so that...
Oh, good.
Yes. So,
good.
Both things were solved.
Of course, I'm pretty sure you can't bring cats into a bank to begin with, so he broke that rule too.
I would not think so.
Could you imagine being a bank teller? Here, hold my cat. Like, what? All right, what is number 3?
Number 3, Nokia has created a new phone called the 204G, which has added... yes. It has added an AI assistant button, despite still looking like what people consider a brick phone.
Yeah, I was about to say, in the picture you sent me, it looks like a old-fashioned Nokia phone, like no updates or anything.
Yeah, and it the AI function can help you make calls, set alarms, turn on the flashlight, or even ask simple questions. But the catch is that it's free for 180 days before requiring a low-cost subscription.
Oh, lame.
Like, you make it the center button on your phone.
Right.
And don't just include whatever money you want to make on it in the price of the phone. It has to be a subscription.
I will say I could see people actually wanting a phone like that. And there could be a market for like getting away from just all touchscreen, because people, want something different. But you're right, the subscription thing's annoying.
Yeah, I have noticed a big focus on like getting away from wanting to be on our phones so much by simplifying phones again.
Well, that and they're just so expensive.
Yes.
I mean, they've gotten so expensive. And I think, people are just like, I don't want to. But I think there's also something about physical buttons. They've noticed this with new cars. So newer cars were starting to get rid of physical buttons and put everything on a touchscreen.
Mm-hmm.
And there was such a backlash to it that they're starting to go back to adding more physical buttons for, say, like the AC or something.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. It doesn't really even feel natural to use a touchscreen for the fans.
Right. You know, there's a muscle memory part of it in terms of the physical buttons.
Yeah.
And I like having like a cool touchscreen and stuff too, but yeah, it's nice to have because you just want to reach over and turn it on or off or something. And having the touchscreen and the biggest one was the volume knob. So Honda had gotten rid of the volume knob and you had to like just keep pushing it on the touchscreen.
Oh, that's annoying.
And they brought it back for new cars because people were like, give me the volume knob. So I could see that maybe with phones as well or something. But we'll see. We'll see. All right, what's number 2?
Number 2, we got our expensive thing to talk about. A T-Rex assembly of fossils known for being a nearly complete T-Rex, has sold to a mystery bidder for $50.1 million.
Wow. What are they going to do with it? What do you do with a giant thing of T-Rex bones?
Well, I guess since it's a mystery bidder, they can't find out, but people are wanting it to be in a museum, of course. The Society of Vertebrate Paleontology, which is a advocacy group, says that it should be displayed in museums so it can be preserved and accessible for future generations.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's kind of good. I still feel like Indiana Jones is going to come out and be like, this belongs in a museum.
They had expected it to get anywhere from 20 to 30 million, but it went all the way up to 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing there's only so many of those, so I could see why it's worth a lot of money.
Yeah. During the auction, apparently the auctioneer was telling people to try a bigger bite.
I see what he did there. All right, what's number 1?
Number 1 today, a license plate has caused a stir as a 77-year-old Florida woman got her tag renewed, thought everything was going to be normal. She got mailed the license plate, and as she opens it, it has SQZ A55.
Which, yeah, we can interpret what that means.
Yes. And
squeeze. I'm sorry.
It has sparked debate, and officials have said that they will replace it if it's deemed offensive. And even I don't understand how that got through whatever review process that they have.
Right. If they even have one, really.
Apparently, her neighbors and her son's friends took a vote on whether to keep the plate on her vehicle, and it was 16-1 to keep it.
Yeah, of course.
Because they found it so entertaining.
What's weird, too, is, when you get a new license plate, usually you get the same numbers that you had before, unless you're, like, buying a new car or something. So that's also something I thought was kind of strange.
It just says that she had a routine vehicle registration renewal.
I feel like someone's playing a prank here somewhere in this process. Something doesn't make sense here.
Yeah, because that is just... I can't even think of how that could just be a coincidence.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The chance of that being a coincidence, yeah.
Like there was some young
low.
person that approved this thinking it would be funny.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. All right, Walker, thank you so much. We'll be back with the Yaffee Program Rewind in just a moment on WVNN.
The Yaffee Program.
We're back here on the Yaffee Program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's voice of reason. I mean, really, I'm America's voice of reason at this point. I mean, we all knew that. If you miss any of the show live, the podcast is up. We'll get to the rewind in a moment. Do want to tell you about the sponsor right now, the Huntsville Men's Clinic, celebrating their 5-year anniversary. And they're part of a team that's treated Alabama men for ED and low T for almost 15 years. Something's changed this past year, though. They have new options. They have taken care to another level. So go see what's new. This wasn't bolted onto a medical practice or something. This is the whole medical practice. Helping men is the entire thing that they do. And it's not a franchise, not an add-on. It's urology-based protocols done the right way. So if you need, guys, specifically for you, you need to get your testosterone checked. You know, your levels checked. Could affect the quality of your life. Could affect your relationships. Only $99 to do that. The Huntsville Men's Clinic. You get your numbers in about an hour. So make that appointment today. Give them a call. 256-368-0333. Or you can do it online. Pretty easy. HuntsvilleMen'sClinic.com. HuntsvilleMen'sClinic.com. A great team there. When you go, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. All right, let's get to it. We have the Yaffee Program Rewind. That time of the show, once again, where I remind you, if you missed any of it live, the podcast will be available. Go to the website, WVNN.com. Check the podcast for all the shows, frankly. You can also subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts or download the WVNN app. It's also on the iHeartRadio app, the TuneIn Radio app as well. So we started the show today, yes, talking about the moral panic that is data centers. And I've said for a while now, and people are kind of catching up to me, that this felt like a moral panic. It felt very similar to when fracking became a big thing, and all these cities are like, not in my backyard. It's going to ruin the water, and that's not really what happened. Now, obviously, when you have any type of industrial building or something, any kind of development in an area, you have to think about energy, you have to think about the water usage, you have to think about all of those things, the environment. That being said, doing a blanket moratorium for an entire state seems like a little much to me, but that's what New York has done. So the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, announced it this week. Go on and play the Kathy Hochul cut one for me.
I want to make sure that if they're going to come, those localities will reap substantial benefits. The bigger the data center, the bigger the investments that communities can and should expect. We also want to make sure that labor has a seat at the table. So projects can include wage standards and labor agreements and prioritize local hiring. The final part of my plan is to ensure that these hyperscale data centers do not receive tax benefits, full stop.
So it's very opposite to what Tommy Tuberville wants to do in Alabama. He recently said he wants them in Alabama, more of them. And Trump came out yesterday, posted on Truth Social about it, saying it's like liquid gold having data centers built. It's going to help AI, but it's going to help taxpayers. So this is going to continue to be a big story in recent months, years, whatever, and coming up. So we'll talk about it on this show, of course. And we talked about it at the beginning of the show. So if you missed it, the podcast is up. We have the Alabama bullet points as well, the top stories from around the state, including the fact that U.S. Senator Katie Brett is warning about gambling ads targeting young people in this country and what we need to do about it, more regulations on that. So we had that in the bullet points, the details, the podcast. That's up on the website, WVNN.com. We spoke with State Representative Rex Reynolds out of Huntsville. He was part of an initiative to recruit more police officers and pass some bills on that. We talked about that. We also talked about the data center thing, of course. Then, yes, we talked about the new platform of the Democratic Socialists of America, which includes no bills. Yeah, no bills. Play the Democrat Socialist cut for me, Walker.
You're able to take a day off and not have to worry. And you don't have to have a job just to pay the bills because you don't have a lot of bills, right? Bills are no longer a thing because there's not for-profit businesses that are constantly trying to exploit you and trying to, put you into debt.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I live in Realville, and that's just fantasy land stuff that they're trying to say, but they actually believe that. We also talked about that a little bit more with Christopher Reed. So if you missed my interview with him, he's host of The Daily Controversy. The podcast of that will be up, but you can also listen to his show 2 to 4 p.m. on WVNN. I played a cut of J.D. Vance as well, talking about why young people seem to be more attracted to socialism. So play the J.D. Vance cut for me, Walker.
And maybe this is just sort of the way my mind works. I tend to be a little bit more empathetic. Why are young people attracted to socialism in 21st century America? One of the best interviews that Charlie Kirk ever gave, it was right before he died. It was an episode that he did with Tucker Carlson where he talked about the fact that if you don't give young people a stake, if you don't give them ownership, if you don't give them a sense of the American dream and of possibility in the future, they're going to become socialists. Like if you have a zero-sum environment for a 25-year-old in this country, they're going to start to say the only way for me to get anything is to take away from somebody else. So we have to get away from like the zero-sum thinking. I think that's like the root cause of this.
I don't know if it's the root cause, but it is part of the cause. Socialists like to argue that it's a zero-sum game. There's just so much in the pie and, we need to redistribute wealth. That's not really how it works. In a capitalist system, you grow more wealth. You grow more productivity. But he also said they need to have an ownership stake where you're not just renting everything. And that's absolutely true. We need to help young people be able to afford to own what they have and own their house specifically. So we talked about that. The podcast of that segment's up. We also talked about the push to make daylight savings time permanent. But you have U.S. Senator Tom Cotton out of Arkansas who's trying to block it. He's trying to kill it in the Senate, which I don't really blame him. I just think I still don't understand why this has become such a huge deal. But there you go. We talked about that. Alabama lawmakers want to make it permanent. So the podcast of that segment is up. We had What's Trending with Walker, of course. And thanks to Walker for producing today, by the way. Thanks to you for listening today. The Vince Show is coming up next. And yes, I'll be back tomorrow at the same time. See you then.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
Jeff Jarrett, great to see you.
In this business, the story behind the scenes, so much more entertaining than what you see on camera.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Paul Heyman.
Mr. Heyman, you are a master at the little things. That's how you turn good into great.
What does it take to achieve greatness? Whatever it takes, I'm willing to do.
That's an Emmy-winning performance.
How about it?
Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.